okay to have these, to have other relationships, I think that's fantastic. I think for me personally, it would never work. I had the opportunity in college to find out that is in fact true. It definitely does not work for me. When I dated a guy,
you have to tell the story. I want the story.
I have lots of stories about fidelity and infidelity, but this one in particular was in college. I was dating this guy and I really liked him. And he let me know that there were two other people who he sees, and he wanted to be able to keep seeing them, and it didn't have, I was 19 or something like that. I had no idea but I'd only had one other actual relationship before in my life, and I had no idea what I was doing. And he told me that he wanted to be able to see other people while we were seeing each other. And I liked him so much, and I said, okay. And it just did not work for me. It was, I think that we kept it up. I remember the moment I knew that it wasn't going to work was a friend of mine from high school. I went to college in Boston at Emerson, as you know, where you also went. And a friend of mine from high school went to Boston University, and coincidentally, she had been set up on a date with him. She didn't know that I was dating him, and we were all at the same party. I had gone to this party with another group of friends, and then this guy that I was dating was there, and my friend from high school and I were catching up. And I remember we went to the bathroom together as girls do, and she said, "So how do you know this guy?" And I said, "Oh, well, we're kind of dating. We've been seeing each other for a few weeks at the time." And she said, "Oh, interesting." And she didn't tell me, anything else. And then the next day, he confronted me about it, and he said, "I was on a date with her, and you told her that we're dating." And I said, "We are dating." And he said, "I know, but I was on a date with her." And I said, "Okay, this is not going to work. You can't go on dates with my friends, and I'm not built for this. I don't want to do this anymore." So that was my one dipping of my toe into that sort of relationship. However, I do know multiple people who are in open relationships, and for some people it does work. It really does work.
Really?
I mean, it's one of those things that I cannot understand how you deal with the jealousy, but there are people who swear that it works.
For a time.
I'm buying it.
I'm buying that it can work for a time. But I think that human nature is such, I believe, and I'm not saying that monogamy is necessarily the be-all and end-all. I think it is for some of us. Serial monogamy works for others. But I think that everybody wants to be the beloved, the most important person. The person, right? I want to be the person my husband fantasizes about. Look, do I care if he looks at pictures of gorgeous women who are not 67 years old? Of course not. I mean, that's great. But I want to be the person he wants to be with. And and he is the person I want to be with. And I feel, actually, I have to say, I feel super fortunate about that, because I don't think that everyone gets to feel that way 40 years plus into a marriage. So I'm super grateful about it. But I don't know that I fully buy the idea of people being able to share. Long before I met my husband, when I was single and dating, I was having this relationship with a guy who was not exactly married, but he was in a committed living together relationship. And in fact, they literally had written the book about it. Not going to go into detail, but they were the experts on living together and not getting married. And it was perfectly fine. They both knew that it was fine for the other to have sexual relationships outside of that union. And even that felt weird. It just felt weird. I couldn't relax. I couldn't relax into that relationship. So maybe I'm old school. It's quite possible. But from what you're describing at the very beginning, I think the idea certainly of men having mistresses is as old as the hills, right? Men had a wife and then they had the person, their concubines or whatever. I'm not sure that the women had the same situation in as many cases.
Not in terms of
I haven't read the literature.
Acceptance. Right. I think it definitely happened because I think it's human nature, but I don't think it was the same sort of I don't think it was accepted as just a thing that happens that we are all sort of silently okay with in the same way.
But let me ask you this.
Men. Yeah.
What was it more socially acceptable ever, or was it different? And is it still, if, for instance, a woman in a heterosexual relationship then has a sexual relationship with another woman? Is that a completely different picture? Is that less threatening?
I think that's a really great question. I think that there are a lot of cases where men find it less threatening. And what that really speaks to, in my opinion, is a lack of respect for non-heteronormative relationships.
I agree.
I think I also understand the idea of men feeling threatened by other men. But I also think that if you're opposed to infidelity, then I think it shouldn't matter who your partner cheats on you with. But I think
it may be more. I've heard it that it can be more of a turn on for some people. Like this idea of two women together is a beautiful, exciting, lovely thing. And so that maybe that notion, somehow is greater or causes a greater emotional impact than the jealousy factor.
Oh, well, I think I think there's a difference between your partner straying outside of your marriage and pursuing another woman versus I don't think there are men whose wives are cheating on them with other women who are turned on by the idea and therefore not upset about the affair. I think that there are for sure relationships where men are interested in the idea of their wife or girlfriend having a sexual experience with another woman and bringing that into either bringing that in or hearing about it. Like, I think those are two different things. And I think what it comes down to is the fidelity is not just the sex and not just the sex that is or isn't outside of the confines of marriage, but it's the truthfulness and the context. And if you've decided, it's like any sort of covenant. If you decide that that these are the terms of a relationship, whether it's a business relationship, a friendship, etc., if you go outside of the expectations of that covenant, then you are committing infidelity. I think we associate it with sex because that's how it comes up a lot in the context of marriage. But,
it's interesting. Here we are, two cisgender heterosexual women talking about married women talking about this. And I'm thinking, do we even have the right to bring in gay relationships into this conversation because of our limited experience and exposure? But it's been my understanding that many gay men who are in committed relationships have an arrangement where it's perfectly fine to have sex outside of that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that too.
We're more so than women. More so than lesbians.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely very common. It's having never, been. I think you're right. It's it's something that's tricky for us to really even comment on, because we don't really know we don't know what it is like to be a gay man. But I think that is a great example for me of polyamory as a concept is not something that I get, but I believe that it works for people. I mean, that's sort of great proof, in my opinion. You know, I have no idea what it feels like to be in a relationship where that seems okay, but I know that for a lot of people, it is okay. So,
right.
I guess I just
right.
You know?
So, is polyamory doesn't mean that you're all there at the same time, right? That's a different thing.
No. I think that it depends on a relationship, but polyamory just means, I think it literally means poly, multiple, amory, love. People who agree that that you can be in relationship with multiple people at the same time. Most people that I know who have been in polyamorous relationships have a primary partner and then multiple, sometimes one or more other partners. I feel like kind of, it's a really, it's a culture with a lot of vocabulary that I don't necessarily know, but so I feel a little clunky trying to muddle my way through it. But it's a really established way of being in relationships that seems to work for a lot of people. And I've definitely known people who have been really happy in polyamorous relationships. I think it's possible that there's like a multiple partner sort of thing, but I don't think, meaning all at the same time, but I don't think that it's necessarily, it doesn't necessarily look that way. I think there are plenty of people who are polyamorous who don't want to have sex with more than one person at once.
I want to circle back to something you said at the very beginning when you were sharing the statistics that I found, and I'm guessing some of our listeners also found to be a little surprising. 65 and older, people 65 and older, 18% of them are having what we would call extramarital relationships. Did it break it down, men and women? And is this, I'm assuming that this didn't break down heterosexual versus gay and lesbian, that this was just across the board in relationships. Who are those 18%?
I think they're friends and neighbors.
What are they doing? Where are they doing it? When are they doing it? Where do their spouses think they are when they're doing it?
See, I think that people in your generation, at least people my age, we have little kids. We're trying to work. We have too much going on. People who are 65 and older, I don't know, maybe they're starting to retire. I don't know. I mean, as we said, the logistics of this,
I wonder if it's all about Viagra. Do you think it's all about those Cialis and all those pills?
It could be. That could definitely, I could see how that would make it a little more doable. Pardon my phrasing. I would speculate that it has to do more with the length of time one has been married, by that, assuming they've been with the same person, the length of time one has been married by that point in their lives. And those 18% could be on their third or fourth marriage too. That is true. And if they're on their third or fourth marriage, maybe it's a pattern that's been in their life.
You think?
That's definitely possible. It also might be, the survey only really was about who was admitting to having affairs. And it also could be that by the time people are 65 and older, they don't really care so much what some survey taker thinks, and they're ready to just admit it.
They might be proud. I want to circle back to the place we started when you asked me for the definition of fidelity, and it is faithfulness to a person cause